For today's vlog, I wanted to talk about, should we trust people who study history for being able to come up with how terms are used within a neo-pagan polytheistic worldview? So I've actually, and this was probably, I don't know, at least a year or two ago, ran across some people talking online, and they were arguing and debating. They're trying to do some reconstruction, because that's what it is, it's reconstruction. A lot of the stuff in the past might have survived in different pockets through culture, but culture has adapted and in some ways moved away from polytheism and what people would typically call paganism. Now, I will call what we do today neo-paganism, new paganism, because even though it has roots and it has stuff that have survived through the cultures, what is done today is a reconstruction, recreation, whatever you want to call it. It's taking pieces, and people are trying to take out some of the monotheistic influences that are very clear in a lot of the different practices around the world. Now, with that, as people are reconstructing, they look at old myths and legends and stories, and then they start debating. One of the debates that I constantly see, that if people take a scholarly source who's not actually practicing but looking at historical sources and explaining the historical sources, people will make comments like, oh, that individual doesn't practice. They shouldn't have a say on this. We should not be trusting these scholarly, credible sources, these folks with doctorate degrees that are studying this in a college versus people who are actually practicing the art themselves. That's the topic for today. So hear me out, and if you disagree, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Should we trust scholarly sources? Here's my opinion. Yes, 100% we should. In fact, I think we should settle many of the debates and the discussions that we have with actual sources, because what do we have if we don't look at sources? We have personal experience. We have UPG. I've said this in multiple videos, so I'll repeat it again here. UPG, unverified personal gnosis, your own personal experience, your firsthand experience of doing something, your own opinion, your own viewpoint. That is important. That is a core of spirituality. You need to do your best to understand, interpret, make it your own, follow it in the way that just feels right to you. There's going to be some variances. We know this. No matter what religion you look at, there's variance. You can even look at some of the major religions around the world, and you'll have different sects and temples and denominations where people will view it a certain way within their group. And then people within that group will have some variances, even in the same sect. Even in the same church, temple, hof, whatever, grove, those individuals inside that group will have some variances on how they view it, interpret it, practice it. That's fine. So what is this whole issue? Well, when you start discussing and sharing ideas and collaborating, especially online, people have a discussion, they try to share, they want to get new people involved. If you believe in something, you want other people to believe. Or at least want to share your passion for your belief with others. Even if you don't want to convert folks, you at least want to share it. You see this again in any sort of spirituality. People get excited. They want to share their thoughts, their knowledge, their wisdom. People make videos online. People like sharing. When they find something that makes sense to them, they want to talk about it. That's normal. So if you're talking about it, new people who have no idea what it's about are going to hear from you. Other people who also practice that have a different viewpoint from you are going to hear you speak and say, wait a minute, I'm glad we're getting new people interested in something we're both passionate about, but you're clearly doing it wrong. You don't understand. Stop that. Then they go back and forth. Then how do you break those disputes on how to practice? Well, you go to the original sources. What happens if there's not an original source? Or if the original sources are in a different language or up for debate? You got to get an expert involved. In a lot of the reconstruction paths that are polytheistic in nature, we don't have what a lot of monotheistics and like Judaism, right? They have the Torah and they have different actual documents, or Christianity has their Bible. They have stuff to go back to. And if you go within certain denominations within Christianity, they have like the Pope and their bishops and priests. They have an actual organization to go to help with disputes or understanding stuff. Like the Catholics came out with the Catechism of the Catholic Faith, helping to clarify what everyone should be believing. Because again, there's a centralized focus group. If you're part of a group, if you're part of a local coven or grove or kindred or whatever, if you're part of a local group, then you and your local group can decide that amongst yourselves. I'm talking about the online disputes, the online debates. This is especially important for you to consider if you're brand new. If you're looking to get into this stuff, if you're looking to find some sort of neo-pagan reconstruction path and make it your own and follow it in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have a ton of different opinions out there. So who do you go to? My recommendation is go to the original sources. Where did it originate from? Who created it? And if you learned it from someone else, where did they learn it from? If it's a book, if it's an author, what are their sources for their book? If it's an individual, who taught them? If it's an online school or college of some form, how are they accredited? Where do they get their stuff from? Any reputable group can tell you where the original sources are. And if they're trying to hide those from you and not let you read them, I personally would take great issue with that, and I don't think I would trust those individuals. Go to what they're reading, go to what they're looking up, look at where the words came from, look at what the stories are that are the centerpiece of their beliefs, look at if they do practices, how are those practices come to be? Are they culture-based practices? Are they more universal human concepts? Research. A lot of people make the joke that when you get into neo-paganism, it's the religion with homework. It really is. We're talking about recreating these paths, but we draw inspiration from other places. I am kind of to the point where I don't see the point in focusing on just one path. I don't think we necessarily need to reconstruct a specific path, especially when there's so many holes and pieces in it. So if you want to read myths from a particular culture, awesome, do it. Yep. But there's so many cultures out there. Check out a couple of them. Read a few. Adapt and incorporate what makes the most sense to you. I like looking at the human condition myself. I like looking at what is it that these original founders of these spiritualities, paths, and practices, what made them so special? What is it that originally inspired them? Where did they go? What were they trying to interpret? Now I'm doing guesswork at this point. I am building my own personal UPG at this point. I'm taking inspiration from what others have said or written down or discussed and making it my own. But when I share it with others, like here on YouTube, I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to say this is my interpretation. I consider this to be the human concept of looking at the world, the earth around us, our universe, and how we can interact with it on one shape or form, one way or another. So that's just my 2 cents. What do you think? If you are debating with others online, whether you practice or not, maybe you just read or do research about it, how do you think disputes should be handled amongst polytheists and neo-pagans? Should we rely on scholars, accredited sources, or should we really just let the people who practice just argue and make up their mind based upon what they think feels best to them? So yeah, thanks for watching, as always, and I will catch you in the next one.